Welcome back to Hashtag Single with Jeanette Bonner. I am not a relationship expert or sex therapist. I'm just a regular New York City woman navigating the world as a single, independent feminist. Hashtag Single is about having honest conversations with other singles in today's device-obsessed culture. So I hope you'll join me on this interesting, challenging, and complex journey as we navigate the ins and outs of singledom. Welcome back to Hashtag Single. It's me, Jeanette, your host. Happy July. Welcome back to our one-on-one session where I interview a fabulous, independent, strong, single woman. I'm very excited to have with me today my friend Melisa. Melisa, thank you so much for being on Hashtag Single with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited about talking about all this stuff.
We're going to get dirty. We're going to get in there. And Melisa brought in her friend Justin to be the voice of the patriarchy. Justin, thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Justin, do you know what it means to be the voice of the patriarchy?
I do. I've listened to a couple episodes and I'm ready to go.
Oh, fabulous. Good. Yes. So we're just going to chat. We want to hear your thoughts and opinions, but, not until we ask for them. So we're just going to ask you to listen quietly. And then at some point we'll check in with you and just see your thoughts and your response to our perspective on dating. How's that sound?
Wonderful.
All right. Let's do it. Melisa.
Yes, ma'am.
How is your single journey going?
It's going. Here we are. Yeah, I've been going through ups and downs with it, sometimes really interested in trying to date, sometimes not. I think much like you, so much career stuff going on. That's that kind of takes a back seat, and sometimes being single is easier.
Yeah, I hear you. So how long have you been single?
About 5 years.
Okay.
And part of that was being in grad school for 2 of those years, and then moving back to New York, and so there's been a lot going on in my life while the last 5 years.
Yeah. Do you find, I have, as you could probably imagine, a lot of my guests, because they're colleagues and associates of mine, they are in the entertainment industry. There's very few guests, I think, that haven't been in the entertainment industry. So I think that's obviously a factor. This podcast is a little biased because we're talking about a very, as you said, weird profession to date in. We have 16-hour days, and you're not flirting on set, or the guys that you work with are not people that you want to date. Has that become an obstacle for you?
Well, you're not flirting on set?
Am I doing it wrong?
I think you can, as long as
No, I don't think there's no rules to it. But when you're focused on getting the shot in, you're not just oh, hey, I just want to let you know in our 30 seconds of silence that I really like your physique. I don't know.
Yeah.
You are doing that?
You can make eyes over room tone. I feel like that's okay. No, and it's funny because I have dated a lot of people that are in the industry, or that I've met on set, just over the years. It's not, there's pros and cons to it, right? They actually understand the lifestyle and have don't feel bad when you don't hear from you for a whole day because you're on set. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then matching up schedules becomes a real difficulty too if they're doing the same thing. So yeah, I've done both things.
Do you find it's easier to meet people in real life on set than on dating apps?
For me in general, yes. Dating or meeting people in real life is much easier because I feel like dating apps, there's such a huge visual component to it, which at the end of the day, I don't particularly care about or connect with. I can see if someone's hot, but I'm much more interested in a really good conversation. Mm-hmm. So the dating app and then even the initial matching, it's just not set up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 100% true. I actually just started chatting with a guy this week, and he said, have you been meeting people during quarantine, like going on dates? And I said, no, have you? And his response was, I don't know if this is a good match then. I'm not interested in endless texts. And I was like, who said anything about endless? But we haven't had any conversation yet. Like, he's just like, we're meeting or we're not meeting. And I'm like, maybe we could get to know each other a little bit before I decide I want to share germs with you. Like,
yeah, no, that feels extreme.
So quick to dismiss me, to be like, oh, I don't want to talk to you for forever. And I'm like, it's been 3 days.
Man, yeah, I think that's also like so much from a male perspective of like, we have to meet now. Why won't you give me your number? There must be something weird about you, as opposed to, I think, as women being much more cautious about giving someone a number or being even in a public place with someone because of all the like psychotic people that we've come across and the weird shit that happens.
Yeah, I've been trying to say that to the guys that I've been talking to throughout quarantine. Like, there's been an immediate let's meet or give me your number. And I respond with, I don't give out my number so easily. And I don't think why don't they understand, like, there's a creep factor that they have to get through before I allow them to have my phone number or meet me in person. And they're not willing to work through my creep factor, like, resistance. Like, I'm like, I just want to be like, no, you have to earn my number. And they're like, bye.
Then I feel like they didn't pass the test, right? Like, that is the creep factor, like,
so
bar line. Whether you're going to be like, hey, here are my boundaries and what I'm comfortable with. And if they throw up a big fuck you, then, like, cool, then this isn't going to work.
I know.
Because you don't give a shit. Great.
Like that guy that's literally like, I don't know if this is a good match because you won't meet me in person. And I'm like, I didn't say I wouldn't meet you in person. I just said I haven't met anyone in person. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's one thing that I love. And I know that I think I told you this before too, but I love when people unmatch with me. Like, I'm so grateful when it happens because I'm like, cool, on to the next. We're not a match. I'm not trying to convince you that I'm good for you. And if you don't want to, great. Then that saves me a whole lot of trouble of like a whole lot of time and back and forth. And it feels more efficient if you just like take yourself out of the mix.
Yeah. And I agree with you in theory, but I guess I'm finding that like everyone is taking themselves out of the mix. And then I'm like, am I doing this wrong? Because there's nobody left to talk to.
Yeah. I think I go through periods of that. Right now, all of a sudden, there's a bunch of people messaging me, but there definitely been times where it's been months, and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm on this.
Have you noticed an uptick in messages, like, once we came into phase 2 of quarantine?
I guess so. Like, I didn't put that together, but I guess it has been more of that. I know for me, like when quarantine started, I definitely got off the apps or stopped paying attention to them because I was just like, what's the point? But I think at that point too, it was we didn't know how long this was going to be.
Right.
And it felt like, well, fine, if I'm not going to talk to anybody for 2 weeks, why bother? Or am I not going to meet anybody for 2 weeks? Why bother?
2 weeks became 3 months.
Became a much longer time. And after the first month, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to figure out how to date in quarantine. This can't continue. I can't do this thing. But yeah, I guess like it's kind of, there's light at the end of the tunnel, at least for New York, of like, oh, okay, maybe meeting strangers for a walk is okay. And that'll be, you know, we could sit at an outside table and have food, and maybe that'll be, you know, something that's possible. So yeah, people more willing to talk and make connections.
I feel like I've noticed a definite uptick. Like you said, like everyone was sort of laying low in quarantine. My friend Jessica was saying the same thing. She was like, I don't feel like anyone actually is engaged in really getting to meet or do a video chat or talking because they don't see the point of this. And it's funny because at the beginning of quarantine, I had a couple guests on the podcast and they were predicting a quote unquote return to courting. They really thought that the quarantine would force people to have to like get to know each other a little bit. And it was like 100% not true. Like people just literally were like, no, I'm not going to do this until we can meet again. Like no one, there was less people trying to get to know you. They just didn't even try. But I think
because I think that also, leaves out the fact that everybody was probably dealing with their own shit too around everything else. Like I've definitely had that conversation with people during quarantine of doing like a video chat date or something. And then, soon after they're just like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not in the right headspace. Like I'm dealing with a lot of shit. So I think that came into play as well for a lot of people.
Yeah. Which apps are you on right now?
Right now, I am just on Bumble and OkCupid. No, I'm not on OkCupid. I'm on Bumble and Hinge.
And how is Bumble going for you?
Okay. I feel like the two switch off as to where I'm meeting people or care about people that I'm care, meaning like interested, of the people that I'm connected with or talking to.
Between Bumble and Hinge?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever listened to other episodes, but I have like a deep hatred for both Tinder and Bumble. Because I hate the 24-hour expiration of Bumble.
Yeah.
Like, I just find like I would match with people and then I would send them a message and then the 24 hours kept expiring. And I felt like, actually I heard from a guy that guys were abusing it by just like swiping on everybody and waiting until someone matched with them and then seeing if they liked that person in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So not doing it intentionally, just like, yes to everybody, let's see who likes me, and then I get to choose again.
Yeah. I mean, which is, I don't know, I kind of feel like, so what? Like, if that's the case, I don't put a whole lot into the first message. It might be like, hey, first name, and then mentioning something about what they have on their profile, or like, have you been on an adventure recently, or something like that. And then if they answer, cool. If they don't, that's fine.
You're so goddamn healthy about it.
It's a lot of therapy for the past
you're like doing a great job. I was talking to my friend Jessica the other day, and there's a new dating app called Chorus, and I had the founder on the podcast, and she in quarantine created something called Dating Roulette. And so these basically
just reminds me of like chat roulette, which immediately gives me anxiety. Okay.
But basically, it's the same concept. It's basically like Zoom with breakout rooms of like random people. And she had they did like a big one with like 25 people, like 4 breakout rooms. And at the end, you say who you want to maybe talk to more. And I gave 4 names and nobody matched with me. Yeah. And I was feeling so rejected. And my friend Jessica was like, isn't that the same as just like how is that different from your regular dating life at all? Like, you just have to get over it. Like, it's like going on a date and not hearing back from the guy, or it's like being ghosted on an app. Like, why does this one feel different to you? And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like shit because I saw their faces. Like, it's irrational.
Because you saw their faces and it's all at once.
Yeah, that's true. It was like 4 rejections at one time.
It's everybody being like, nah, it's all right.
Yeah, I was like going to like 5 auditions in one day and nothing happens. You're like, well, I thought I beat the odds there.
Yeah, I thought I had a better chance. But
yeah.
Okay.
What the hell?
Man. Yeah, that feels like a lot of pressure. That feels really, ugh. See, because the thing that I think is good and bad about dating apps is that you can create any story that you want in your head.
True.
Where it can be dangerous because you can become invested in somebody that isn't really a match, or, I've definitely, especially as a storyteller, can create entire relationships out of one message, right? I can go down that rabbit hole, but know that I have a propensity to do that. So I stop myself and be like, great, that's not reality. Let's get back to what's really happening. But you can also like hype yourself up in the opposite way too. If you don't know anything about the person, you can tell yourself whatever story you want about, like, well, that person was dumb, or they don't have the money to do, or they don't want to pay for Bumble, so they're not going to, extend their 24 hours and they were just really busy that day. Whatever. Tell yourself any story you want.
That's 100% true. And psychologists have said that women tend to create stories in general around like little pieces of information, like in the way that if you have a conflict at work, it then becomes like a big, huge story that you've created about yourself, about how you have no self-worth and how people hate you, and like none of that is true. And I think that 100% extends into dating, like the way that you can. The way that our brains are hardwired to think 3 steps ahead, that's sort of detrimental to dating, where you're like, you've already created the path of where this quote unquote relationship or this time with this guy is going to go. And are vastly disappointed when it doesn't go your way.
Yep. But that is something for meeting like as soon as possible. Or for me, I definitely am like asking to video chat as soon as possible, because you do get more information, and I don't create a persona about somebody based on a sentence or two. That doesn't then I get attached to whatever the text conversation is, and it's not reality.
You're so, like I said, I do that all the time. You're so well balanced. I'm very envious.
There's a lot of self-talk.
I'm like all the time I do that. It's insane. But wait, you said recently that you had a second video date, like a callback, if you will.
Yeah, callback.
I was like shocked to high heaven. Like you had 2. How can you? Someone came back. Tell me everything.
Yeah, I mean, it really like the first. So all of my first conversations end up being about what's happening in the world, about coronavirus, about social justice issues. Because
some light date banter. Yep, totally.
Real light, real flirty. Because I'm so passionate about it that it really overtakes, like anything that anybody says, I relate it right back to that. Partly because I'm kind of trying to adjust for who they are and trying to fish for who they are, and just make sure it's so important to me. I want to make sure that we're on the same page politically and socially. Because it's just, if that's not going to be a match, it's a non-starter. It's going to be terrible. But yeah, so our first conversation was that, and I was like, oh, well, I don't actually have any feelings for this person, but they want to like talk again. So I should give them the benefit of the doubt. Why not try it? Sure. Let's go ahead. And then the second conversation ended up being all about film and production.
Oh, God. So you have to do a third one.
Well, no. After that, I was like, I think you're a nice person. I'm not really feeling any vibes.
Okay.
But let's keep in touch about film.
Yeah, like you could be colleagues. But I think you bring up a really good point. Like, I was talking about this with my friend Amanda the other day. She said that she had gotten to a heated email exchange with someone just like about the politics of what's happening in our country right now. And she wasn't doing it to get a date ultimately. She was doing it because she just felt like compelled to express her opinion, and also to kind of just unapologetically explain her point of view. Let's say that.
This is an email through a dating site or through something else?
She was emailing. I guess they had exchanged email addresses, because she said they were emailing, like lengthy emails. And they ended up going on a co-walking date. And I was like fascinated. I was like, hold on. You went there, like no holds barred, no apologies, like going down the dark route that everyone says don't do on like a first interaction, getting into politics, letting a man know your opinion, schooling someone in very, very divisive, I don't know, subjects right now, and they still went on a date. And I think that's so interesting, because you're right. If this person was going to date you, that's who you are.
Yeah.
And if they can't handle that, if you can't exchange those intellectual concepts on like a high level, then that person's not the right partner for you at the end of the day.
Completely. I feel that way about everything too. Again, I love when people unmatch me because of something I said. Like, great, this is fantastic because we're not a match anyway.
Right.
But yeah, but I also, it's interesting with everything going on in our country, you know, political climate and social justice issues and all of that stuff. Like I put filters on who I'm looking for and only want to date people that actively put themselves out as being liberal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, if you're saying you're moderate, I don't buy it. One, because we are so politically divided. I just don't buy anybody who calls themselves a moderate. And that's my own bias. And if you don't put it out there, then my first question, and I have done this with people, my first question to them is why? Like, why isn't that front and center? What are you trying to hide? What are you ashamed of? And yeah, going from there. I did that to one person and we actually did have a video chat as well. Ended up not being interested, but you know, yeah.
But I love this idea of like really, I think as women, we are socialized to say like, don't scare the guy away. Like, don't put forward your most intense, or dare I say controversial personality aspects on the first date, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is just a let's get to know each other without deep diving into what we believe or who we are or to have arguments. But I love embracing the opposite. I think that's really bold of you to just be like, no, we're gonna fucking dive into it early on, and that will let me know if you're the right person for me.
Yeah, well, part of it I think comes with age. Right. Being now in my late 30s, I just don't want to spend the time on anybody who isn't going to be a match ultimately. And I'm pretty secure in who I am, what I think, and what I want. So why avoid that?
Yeah. So how do you like bring it up? Like, what's one of the questions that you would ask people, or how do you sort of, I don't know, address the topic?
I feel like everything relates.
All right, so let's say, what if I was just like, hey, what are you up to this weekend? As they all say the same fucking thing. So what are you up to this weekend?
Yeah. Up to this weekend? Well, I mean, it depends on the weekend. Probably going to a protest.
Okay, so solid.
That'll be like
start.
The first thing that'll like be out there and be like, yeah, I'm going to this protest. What about you? You know, and then I even with the person that didn't put their political affiliation on their profile, and I was curious, that was one of the first questions I started out with was, why isn't that on your profile? Why don't you have a selection? What do you think? Like, where do you stand? Other times people could be like, yeah, with just like everything going on in the world, like very vague. So I'm like, what do you mean? What's everything? What's included in that everything? Yeah, things like that. I think for me personally, I am like very straightforward to the point of being blunt. A lot of times I've tried to change it and soften it. It's not happening. So that's just is what it is.
So what are the struggles that you're experiencing in dating, if any? Some people, I mean, I'm it's sort of a generalization. I'm finding a lot of people are finding obstacles, but, could be going great for you, but I'm assuming it's challenging. So,
sure.
What is it that you're struggling with?
I think just the fact that the only way to meet people at the moment is through apps. And in general, like like in the last decade, I feel like everybody's relied on apps to date, and it's just not the best way for me to date.
How so? How so? Like, what is it that's challenging about it for you?
I mean, the fact that it is pretty shallow. You're looking on, it's so visual, and it's all about that initial kind of attraction just based on what someone looks like. Whereas my interest and my attraction in a person is so much more about a personality and the way in which someone speaks, and, you know, can they banter? Can they make jokes? Do they not take themselves too seriously? Do they have something that they're passionate about, that they're working towards? Like, all of those things are really attractive to me. But there's no way to know that on an app. So really, I've just been using the apps as like, okay, you fit like several criteria. Sure, you seem nice. Let's meet in person, and then I can tell more. But that takes a lot of time and effort. So what I do like about quarantine is that the first meeting is over video chat, because I feel like that saves me a lot of time and energy.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree with you. And I'm finding that is the disconnect that's sort of universal. That just, you know, to make a generalization, but a generalization I'm finding to be true, that men are visual people. Like, how many times do you get on an app, on a message, a guy just, their leading line is, "You are so gorgeous, you're very attractive, I would love to meet you." Like, it's a lot of the same vein. Like, no one really responds to the content of your profile. Whereas I feel like we as women are intellectually stimulated by all of the things you mentioned. And like, I'm always looking for content in a profile, and I always will comment on something they've put in there to start a conversation. And that those two, like, desires are just, I don't know how to make them match up.
I have started just telling people if I think they're cute. I try to stay away from adorable. That's something that I go to, that I'm just like, I think this person's adorable, but I'm like, that feels emasculating. So I'll say, like, you have, like, I'll go the opposite route. I'll do the same thing that men do to women. I'll say to them, like, you have a really cute smile, or I think you're attractive, or whatever. And that gets a pretty good response, because you're stroking their ego.
Yes. You got to play their game.
You got to play the game.
Yeah, but it gets where it fizzles out and just sort of implodes in your face is once you start the conversation. Like I said, mine kind of fizzle out after 3 or 4 exchanges when they either can't keep up the conversation, or they're like ready to meet or like have a phone number. And I'm just like, no, we haven't exchanged any conversation yet. We've just told each other that we like each other's faces.
Yeah.
That's like not enough for me.
Yeah. Well, I do like that a lot of the apps now have within the app a way to do a video chat.
Which ones are doing that?
Hinge and Bumble both have that.
Do they really? Maybe I need to update my app.
That might be helpful.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
But yeah, you can do it in app without exchanging any information, which is always the plus of apps, is that you don't have to give any of your information away for the creeper.
Oh, right. Creeps. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm 100% looking into that. I'm such a dummy. Yeah. Wait, what was the Hinge, and then what was the other one you said?
And Bumble.
Oh, right, because I'm not on Bumble. Right. Because I hate it. That's crazy.
I'm with you on Tinder. I find Tinder to just be a trash heap. I don't know the last time that I've been on Tinder.
Yeah, it's just of all of the apps that seem to be solely focused on attraction and hookups and like base level needs, that one seemed to be the worst. I think because you don't really have a profile. It's all just like pictures. So what else do you have to go on?
Oh, there are no words. Like, literally, I've not been on it for so long. There's no words associated with it. It's just photos.
I mean, last time I was on it, unless they've changed it, but that was like several years ago, it was just pictures. And then when you match, you can have a message. But there's no, like, explaining who you are or what you value or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. No, not for me.
I'm curious to hear, Justin, if I'm just really interested in this idea of like leaning into the tough things about you that women have been socialized to stay away from. Like starting out with your political views. Have you had anybody start a conversation with you, like on any of those topics?
Like, how do I feel about women's rights? Like right off the bat?
Well, we can start there. Just put you under hot water.
Yeah. No, nobody's approached me that way. But I welcome that, actually.
What about just like anything to do with like the current political climate?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, coronavirus stuff maybe, but no Black Lives Matter kind of content. I mean, I have in my profile like pretty straight up, like, Black Lives Matter, transgender rights kinds of things.
But no one's actually acknowledged that you have that in your profile.
No. People have acknowledged that, but nobody's been like, I guess maybe because of that, nobody's opened a conversation with, how do you feel about this or that? Because I've made it pretty clear.
I think Melisa might be the only one on the dating apps doing that, to be perfectly
fair. No. I've seen a bunch of women who have, different like politically motivated sorts of like statements about themselves.
Like on their profile, but in terms of, we're talking about like a first interaction, how would you feel if, like right off the bat, a woman comes in and starts talking to you, hopefully, let's assume her beliefs align with yours, but starts talking in about protesting and rallying and Black Lives Matter and transgender rights and like, I don't know, pick your cultural topic of the day. Like starts in like within the first 3 sentences. How would you feel about that?
I love it. I think it's great.
You do?
And even if they disagree, I just love engaging in those kinds of conversations. So anything, like, I'm totally open and happy for it.
I'm so interested in that. And I'm did you ever get socialized that way, Melisa? Were you told to sort of be polite in a first exchange?
Oh, sure. Like,
and to not be like, not to address controversial topics or to bring up something that could potentially make someone uncomfortable.
I think definitely, and like in a variety of ways, was told to, monitor what I say, how I act. Basically, though, a theme of my entire growing up and to current day has been that I'm too aggressive. So I think that I have been tried to be socialized, but I just fuck against that because it's just not in me.
Bravo, woman. Hell yes to you. I mean, I feel like I'm always got that little voice in my head that's reminding me to not show 110% of my personality in a first meeting with anybody, not just like a date.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. I mean, it's been a journey to get to where I am that I feel good about that, doing that with anybody, and to not immediately go down the path of like, oh, everybody hates me. That thought will still come up. I've just become more accustomed to challenging that thought and not give it any weight or as much weight or try to veer off of it when I can. But yeah, no, it's not been easy. It's not, I think, especially before the Me Too movement became more prevalent and people started talking more mainstream about like, a woman isn't a bitch, maybe she's just a boss, you know? When that kind of thought started happening again, it became a little easier because there was the mainstream language that I could use to call people on those things, or people just became more used to their biases. Like in the same way with Black Lives Matter, people are kind of, right, oh, we live in a patriarchal society and a white supremacist society. Got it. Now I can kind of try to dig through my implicit biases and see the ways in which I participate in that. So yeah, it hasn't always been easy, but here we are.
But it's also, you're right, it does come with age. Like everyone says, once you get into your 40s, it's like 0 fucks given. Sort of like, I'm here.
So looking forward to it.
I'm not apologizing for who I am. But you're right. I think we have, fortunately, reached a place in society where it's like we can acknowledge at least I mean, you would be an idiot to say that this isn't happening right now. Or just like, complete hiding
willfully
under a rock.
Ignorant.
Yeah, exactly. Just putting blinders on and living your life, which a lot of people are doing. But it's enough to say, like, so it shouldn't make people uncomfortable if you're going to be talking about it. Like, everyone's talking about it. Like, it's now it's like not weird if you bring it up at a cocktail party because, like, everyone's fucking talking about it. How can you not talk about it?
For sure.
But let's go back to Justin. So I'm really curious about just like your dating experiences with, let's say, just like take the political aspect out of it, about what, just to label, what we would say like direct or aggressive women in a positive way, strong women. Like, how do you, what's your perspective of that in the dating scene?
I mean, for years I've had a statement on, like each of the different apps are different, right? Like, they provide you different opportunities to say things like you've talked about, and so I've approached them all kind of in different ways. And on Hinge, I think it is, like, I have a statement that basically just says, like, I'm looking for like really strong, opinionated people.
Ooh, hell yes.
So I think that certainly helps attract that kind of person because they look at that and they, say like, okay, this is somebody I don't have to like hedge or play that game with.
What is it about strong, independent, direct women that attracts you to them?
I just like I'm just attracted to confidence, and to me it's a place of confidence. And that's not to say that people who aren't strongly opinionated aren't confident in other ways. It's one indicator, right? And it's a particular like place of confidence, I guess, also. So I just really like people who are bold.
Do you think that comes from anything in your upbringing?
Yeah, certainly. I think, my mom's a pretty strong woman, right? And I think that that's definitely been a condition on which I kind of like base potential partners, right? Like, it's pretty standard Freudian sort of thing, maybe, right? So I think that that's been part of it. I think, I grew up kind of being that guy that girls didn't consider threatening, really. I was like always like really interested in talking and really interested in getting to know people. When I was younger, I thought that was how I was going to get girls to like me, right? Like, I remember thinking that the idea was, in junior high school, I don't know what women are interested in, but I hear all the time that people who are married, they say, oh, he's my best friend. So I thought that, that for me, because I was kind of like a late developer, like physically, I thought my angle, for lack of a better term, was that like I could be like a good friend.
You'd sneak in via the best friend route. Oh yeah.
Yeah, as a teenager, like, that's great.
Solid sort of MO of a lot of teenagers, I think.
Yeah,
Did
sure.
it work?
Oh, no, it was terrible. No, because as I discovered later, like, there also has to be that sort of like physical, like chemistry or like sexual attraction. And for me, like for years and years, like even into college, I thought that expressing any sort of sexual desire made me a jerk, like a bad person. So I kind of like really like pushed back against those feelings in myself or expressing anything like that, because I thought that was a negating factor.
Where do you think that idea came from?
Just, socialization, like seeing things on movies or like hearing friends of mine, girls that, I was friends with a lot of girls too, even if I wasn't like trying to like be their best friend so that they would like me, right? Like, I had lots of friends anyway that were just girls. So like I would have conversations with them and I just associated like men are only after one thing, all men are jerks, with this idea of sexual interest.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was really like a late developer in terms of like how to approach women in a way that was respectful, but also like I'm also interested in you physically. So that took a long time.
Well, I think it's also interesting because you're taking, like, being a teenager, hearing advice from adults that are in a very different stage of life.
Oh, totally.
Right. And trying to apply that as a teenager when you're just like a set of raging hormones.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. No, totally correct. Yeah.
But we did friend zone even as teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, if you do not have that, this is what I always say is constantly missing from the dating scene, especially on first dates, that people are so concerned about just like getting along. They're not expressing desire, sexual desire. And that's sort of what we refer to as chemistry. If you don't feel desired and if you don't desire yourself, if that thing is missing, then it's like it's a deal breaker for both parties. But that it's just like it's right out of like every John Hughes movie. Like I'll be her best friend and she'll cry on my shoulder and then she'll realize she loves me. Like, but my friends, I have guy friends that did that too.
Yeah,
it's like a solid way to grow up in America.
Yeah,
totally.
That's crazy. Well, I think this is like a really important, I think especially in this day and age, like I think this is so important that like, it's just a lesson that we just need to lean into who we actually are and our own identities and not be afraid of like scaring people away with our own truth. Even if we've been told by our parents, by our society that like, that you shouldn't ruffle feathers. I think women especially, I mean, like Justin's here to tell us that like he's not scared by strong, independent women that have an opinion, a political opinion, no less, you know? And you are an example of that. My friend Amanda is an example of that. I think you guys, like, this is the way forward, just unapologizing, not apologizing for who we are and what we believe in.
Yeah. And I think that it's worth saying that it's hard. It's hard to break that socialization. And it's not going to happen overnight, but the more that you try it, the easier it gets. And when you do get positive reinforcement for being yourself, then it feels better.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to I think that's like a good suggestion for everybody. Like maybe you don't have to like lean into, educating people as strongly as you have, which is, I honor you and I respect you so much. I don't have that quite in me, but you know, I think I've been afraid to start with like, how are you feeling about all this social unrest, or have you participated? Like I've been having sort of light convos, and I think I might want to just sort of dip my toe in and see, I don't know, just see how people respond. Because as you said, they're not real interactions anyway. So what is there to lose, you know?
Yeah. And for me, what I'm realizing too, even through this conversation, is if it's an indication of what kind of level of empathy, self-awareness, compassion, or just involvement with your community that a person has. And those are all going to be things that are going to be important for me in a relationship too. So if you can't empathize with the people that are literally fighting for their lives in the street, it won't work.
That's 100% true. We should be screening for values that we desire.
Yeah.
Up front. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much. This has been an incredible conversation. I think I'm vowing to change. No, you both inspired me. And maybe we've inspired others too, which is the most we can hope for in life. But thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast and being willing to speak openly about your dating lives, which we don't always do. And Justin, I hope we get to potentially meet in real life in the future.
Yeah, me too. You know, I was looking at Facebook, right? And you and I have more friends in common than Melisa and I do.
What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's not entirely surprising. Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh,
Yeah.
I have to check it out.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? We were meant to be drawn together.
Yeah,
Look at
that's right.
that.
The podcast unites everybody, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. All right, you guys. Well, that is it for this episode of #Single. We will catch you next time.